All right. Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Fred again, and welcome back to another great episode of The Healthy Healer. So, today we have somebody who's actually been a host for me on her podcast on a couple of occasions, and now I have the opportunity to get her onto my podcast. She's been well aware of my work over the last few years, has been a big fan of the Welcome to Humanity work, as well as the True Voice work, and the work that we're doing inside of really creating authenticity as a way of managing mental health, and how radiance is affected by our own genuine nature and our own authenticity. Rachel Varga is just an amazing person who's got loads of initials after her name, totally beautiful inside and out, and actually brings a level of understanding and a level of care and concern for humanity that most of us don't really get access to very often. I'm going to take a peek a little bit at Rachel's bio, and for the sake of um, formality, read you what will already be in the notes. Rachel Varga is a double board certified aesthetic nurse specialist since 2011, and has over 20,000 procedures performed, and has been a host on a top 20 podcast, the Always Radiant Skin podcast, of which I was just a guest, an international clinical trainer for other physicians and nurses, celebrity skin expert featured by Dave Asprey, JJ Virgin, and more. Rachel's an international speaker and a six-time academically published award-winning author in the field of regenerative and aesthetic nursing, as well as an executive board member and peer review for a USA-based plastic and aesthetic nursing journal. And she's a regular contributor to the UK-based Journal of Aesthetic Nursing. Rachel's one of the first to combine functional slowing aging techniques, biohacking, and modern medical aesthetics by teaching us how to tune into what the skin is telling us about our internal health and what we can do about it. Through education on at home non toxic skincare, hair care, dermal rolling, in clinic skin rejuvenation, and biohacking, Rachel helps inspire others with her unique toolkit to slow cellular aging and enhance radiance using her holistic science of beauty method, which you can find at rachelvarga.ca, where one-on-one sessions for at home and in clinic skin rejuvenation guidance and are available. So, Rachel, welcome to the Healthy Healer podcast. It's just a gift to have you on our show. Thank you for being able to make the time and for coming on so gracefully.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to connect with you, Fred. So, some of you might be thinking, oh, why the heck do we have the skin nurse here on the show? Well, let me tell you. For being a healer, there's tons of wounded healers out there that we do need to present ourselves to attract new clients and look the part so that we can really attract people that we want to work with and provide our care that we know that we can provide. Now, in doing so, a lot of times we unpack that there are some things going on behind the scenes that our skin is telling us. And I am really excited to talk about what my true passion, I think my life's work, I can do the rejuvenation stuff with my eyes closed. Really, what I'm here to do as a human is to help other people become their most high vibe, more conscious, radiant humans. And in fact, radiance is a really deep Ayurvedic principle that actually relates to our 10th body, the radiant energy. So if you're looking to really enhance your health as the healthy healer, understanding this is going to allow you to have better connections, self talk, and presence and community with yourself and others. Because at the end of the day, the why behind rejuvenation is confidence for community.
Absolutely. So the purpose of radiance and taking care of our skin and taking care of what we present as, so like the outer skin, the outer presentation, like organ, is what you pay attention to. The idea that, among other things, that radiance comes from within and from without, but the skin is a tremendous indicator of how well we're doing with inside of ourselves and our spirituality, our emotional connections, our interactive capacities, our our general health status at any given time. Is that what you're trying to kind of saying at this point?
Yeah. And then to add to that, so one of the things I teach, so obviously skincare, what do we do at home? What do we do for rejuvenation? However, I also teach other leaders, parents, entrepreneurs, leaders, people that are here to make an impact, or at least make an impact in their personal and professional lives in the highest capacity possible. Now, with this also comes not only the way that we look, but also our emotional states. And for you, having experience in the psychiatry world, our mental state, our energetic state, our emotional state, our psychological resilience, our spiritual state are all connected. And in my conversation with people that lead retreats for healers, is there's a lot of wounded healers out there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're wanting to have the best clients, attract the best clients, this is where Radiance comes in. I kid you not, the clients that I attract, that I work with, it's actually a lot of like attracts like. So I tend to attract a lot of other intuitive empaths and people that also do things like biohacking, where they're very conscious of their environment and are really looking for the best information possible and the best people to help them achieve their skin goals. And so being the radiant example, not just, living by example, showing up on camera and being this version of you, but when you actually meet people in person and go to events and have people come up and say, "Hey, I saw you in the room. I just knew I had to come and talk to you." But also understanding when to stealth mode so that those clients that are just going to waste your time, they're just going to be the look-see-loos trying to get the free information, the energy vampires, how to also get your shields up and literally be like stealth from them too. So
Mm-hmm.
this whole radiant stuff is really deep, and it does come down to being a magnet for people, your life, your skin, your beauty, your family, your love, your abundance, your health, wealth, all that. Radiance is huge. And actually, in this book here that my beautiful soulmate just brought to my attention today at breakfast table, Divine Relationships, Two Bodies, One Soul by Namkir Khalsa and Sri Atma Singh Khalsa, based on the teachings of Yogi Bhajan. And it says the 10th body, the radiant body. The radiant body is the electromagnetic projection of the essence of our 9 other bodies. Your radiance depends on the amount of prana, life force, you consume. The radiant body's magnetic attraction gives you courage. When it is strong, you are bright, influential, prosperous. That's when you're going to do really well in your business. When it is clouded by fear, it cannot work.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have those bad months when that's
Exactly.
interfered with. When your radiant body is strong, success is automatic. What do you
Isn't
think?
that right? Yeah. Yeah. So when your radiant body is strong, success is automatic. And, that's what we're talking about when we're speaking to the healthy healer. And we had spoken of this briefly before the show, but basically, in order to be a healer, one has to resonate with that who is being healed, with the person who's being healed. And the only way to actually resonate is to be as clean a tuning fork as possible. And we talk about the tuning fork resonance or the harmonic resonance that's available between healer and healing or healer and healed. We're talking about the interface between one's radiance and the other's receptive quality of being able to absorb one's radiance rather than to repel one's radiance. So when we're talking about like being able to put up a shield for those people maybe we don't want to work with, or those people who aren't really in the resonating state with us, that's something that radiance allows for in its purity. And when we're talking about like really resonating with another person, like bringing forth the people who are interested in biohacking or interested in, reversing aging, and it doesn't always have to be the people who are following Dave Asprey. It can be people who are just interested in that naturally and maybe even don't even know Dave Asprey. They don't even know that there's such thing as biohacking, reversing aging, et cetera, as an opportunity. There's something about resonance inside of this radiance that I'd love for you to actually speak to.
Yeah, the resonance piece, it truly does come from purification. So for me to show up and, people aren't going to want to get skin advice from somebody that's got not great skin. People aren't going to want to get weight loss advice from someone who's 20 pounds overweight because their emotional wellness is just in the tanks, right? They're holding on to all this stuff. So, whatever you are teaching and whatever your healing gift is, you got to know and you got to be confident that you are walking the walk and you're talking the talk. And that's going to help build your credibility. Now, for me and my work, and this is going to translate into any work, whatever your background is, whatever your healing gifts, your conventional training, or more functional, non-conventional training is, the more pure you are with reducing your exposure to toxins in our air, water, lighting, electromagnetics, and regular detoxing is the place to start. Before the biohacking stuff with the red light therapy and this, that, the other thing, it really comes down to detoxing and purification, which is why I write academic papers. So I'm an academically published journal author and peer reviewer. I'm like a super beauty biohacking nerd, you can call me. And I publish papers so that I can speak to things, because what I want to speak to, no one's really speaking to yet, especially in the podcasting space. So if you are a healer and you're putting yourself out there, some of my media training told me that if I want to talk about things, I have to be able to reference research. And if the things I wanted to talk about wasn't yet available for me to reference, but I knew that there was something to it, then I published a paper so I can talk about it. Eye rejuvenation, jaw rejuvenation. But this one is oxidative stress status and its impacts on the skin. And I found some really interesting things. So, a lot of us who are healers are also intuitive empaths. We understand things about consciousness. So, this is really interesting here, because this is what's going to be some of the main pain points for your clients, for them to find you, and some of their key huge roadblocks. Is I went on chat GTP and I asked, what's interfering with human consciousness? Right? Because I know, Fred, that you're all about unlocking our highest human potential and all of that. So obviously consciousness is a part of that. We
Right.
follow specific linguists, you and I, that are all about uncovering this stuff too. We follow a lot of the same people, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And so I asked Chat GTP, what is hindering human consciousness? Socioeconomic, political, health toxins, and certain groups that are really wanting to suppress the evolution of humanity. And I know that this is what you're all about. So, for you listening now, you know that these are some of the key roadblocks. So, then you have to kind of circumvent and overcome that and find ways to get your message out so that it might not necessarily be to the masses, which could actually expose you to clients you don't want to work with that are not at that same resonance. So when you're considering, say, being on a show and getting your message out there and getting a little bit more exposure, you want to reference research, and you also want to be really careful who you're aligning with and whose show you're being on, because you're going to get exposure to their audience and all those attachments and energetic cords. And, if it's a highly traumatized, charged audience, then you're going to just get an onslaught of people from that too. So go to conferences, meet people. If you love how you are connecting with certain people who are certain speakers, work with them. If they're kind of on this different frequency, you can tell that they got a lot of ish going on in the background and they're like really troubled humans, don't work with them. And that's okay. And that can be a really great tip to help growing your audience and expose you to the right people, and yet kind of stealthing you from the people you don't want to work with.
It's really great. So you're speaking to this thing, and you've now referenced it a couple times. This idea of attracting the clients you want to work with and repelling the clients that you don't want to work with. And I know that, like Dean Graziosi speaks to that as well. There's a number of people who I've heard inside of marketing and promotions that that's the key to marketing. Actually, it isn't to gather up as many leads as possible. It's to gather up as many like qualified customers who are interested in working with you, or for which there is a resonance, for which there is a harmony, for which there is a likelihood of moving the greater needle forward, needle forward. And this is what I think you're all about, Rachel. It's like this idea of, Radiance as a tool for that. Like, and so can you just do us a favor and speak to what is your definition of the word radiance so that we can tell? I think we all have different ideas. Some of us think it's a bright light that comes from the sun, or some reflection, or some sort of, some sort of brightness of some nature. And I think it probably is, but I'd love to hear what you put together as your definition of the word radiance, since it's so core to who you represent your brand as.
It's actually always evolving. So before I thought beauty was, ideal facial ratios and proportions, right? So that's where I come in for my rejuvenation work. And then I started to see the subset of clients of mine aged 60 to 90 that have very consistent and have devotion to body, mind, spirit, energy practices. And family unit, they're right with God. They have a spiritual practice, big time. Body, mind, spirit, energy practices, and have a family unit. Now, I started to notice with these individuals that they would show up in the chair and they say, "Hey, Rachel, I feel great on the inside. I just feel like my outsides don't match." Maybe they lived a very beautiful outdoorsy lifestyle and had some sun exposure. What is going on with these people? They healed faster when they'd sit in the chair and I'd be talking with them or on Zoom because I'd be doing skin and rejuvenation consults in 2017, people flying in to see me, France, Germany, Dubai, New York, all over the place. This young 20 something skin nurse on Vancouver Island, people flying in to see me. That's kind of strange, right? So there was this attraction that they had to me. Little did they know that my more mature clients were teaching me so much about the depths of beauty. So radiance is a deep beauty. And now what I've learned that helps the skin become its most glowing version of it. Like you're not going to feel confident as a healer doing consults, Zoom and in person if your eyes are inflamed, if your eyes are red and puffy, or you look super tired, dark under eye bags, you got eczema, breakouts, right? Those types of things actually allow people to look less trustworthy. The more well kept we are, the more aware we are of our mannerisms and our gestures and our specific word choices. Here comes linguistics. It's kind of this whole package. So when I think about a cake, for example, the one-on-one skin and rejuvenation plan, all of that is like the cake recipe. What you do at home, what you do in clinic. That's the cake recipe. Okay. I can do that stuff with my eyes closed. Then the icing on the cake is how to use those products, what it looks in your everyday lifestyle, kind of like tutorials, if you will, icing the cake, putting products on. And then there's the cherry on top, making it all look pretty. So there's kind of these layers. So it's this last layer of this presentation, if you will, is really what radiance is. And I noticed a shift. So when I was personally at, the cake and the icing step, I'd go to an event and I'd have people come up to me, Fred, and they would say, "Oh, Rachel, I love your outfit. Your skin is so beautiful. What products do you use? What makeup do you use? Your hair looks great. What do you use on your hair?" And that was a couple of years ago. And then I went through a huge shift myself too with detoxification, purification, lots of really cool stuff behind the scenes, body, mind, spirit, energy, consciousness, you name it. Lots of stuff, ongoing evolution. Now, when I go to events, I have people come up to me. They're not paying attention to my physicality. Sure, it might look pretty to them, but what they're being more attracted to is an energy. And I've always had a passion for electromagnetics from, back in the day, my dad talking about the Ballard fuel cell and all these things with electromagnetics and energy and, what's happening in the energy space and also the consciousness space is just huge. And then I read this book, this AM, talking about how the radiant body is the electromagnetic projection. So it's the electromagnetic component, which I think is this underpinning aspect of the way that our body hums. So if you say, I'm a bit of a petrol head. So if you have your motor and you got to change the oil's gunky, you got to replace that filter, put new oil in, or say your coolant, you need a coolant flush or transmission flush. If all that stuff is dirty and gunky, your vehicle is not going to run very well and it's not going to last very long.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the radiance, it's the electromagnetics, making sure that your car's computer isn't glitching out left, right, and center. You don't have wires that are crossed.
Mm-hmm.
It's fueling your body, mind, spirit, energy practices with the electromagnetics as being one of the I would say most important component, especially now. So for those of you helping people, most people have radiation sickness and they don't realize it because of the electromagnetic radiation that we're all being bombarded with. You mentioned, the beginning of this month, something happened with new frequencies happening.
Right.
So the more we protect against like EMFs and toxins in our environment, the better healthy healer we're going to be. And in going through this process ourselves, this is like priestess style detoxification, ongoing practice. You're never done. It's going to make you a better healer.
Yeah, beautiful. And so, what are some of the things on the ground that some of our listeners, or maybe even myself, can learn are the best ways to contribute? You mentioned ongoing cleansing processes behind the scenes that you're now presently involved in. What are some of the things that we can do? What happens if we're really having like trouble sleeping, or that's just how it is, and we are ending up getting tired for whatever reason. Maybe we're in front of the computer too late, or we're um, taking in too many stimulants or taking in too many toxins. What kind of things can the average person do to actually pay attention to what is necessary to bring out that innermost energy, the energy that you're now getting poked for at conferences, along with the outer energy of, the beautiful hair, beautiful skin, beautiful outfit, beautiful outward presentation? How can people get access to their own inner self and bring radiance from deeper within?
Well, this is going to sound very interesting, but I'm going to drop some statistics that actually came through a meditation. So, you know, resonate with this, not, I don't care. This is what came through. So, in my meditation on radiance and things like that, this number came to me. 2.22% of individuals have access to this type of radiance that I talk about, that I teach on, but only about 1.11% actually do the work. So there's a component to this. Like, yes, you can know what to do. You could consume all the influencers' content out there, but it's actually really simple what we can do, boots on the ground. Where do you start? That's with my recent academic paper. That's why I wrote it. It's kind of like a guidebook, actually, for other aesthetic practitioners to get with the program, with functional practitioners that actually care and monitor oxidative stress status, the
Hmm.
toxic bucket. How full is this bucket? So basically, with purification, so drinking filtered water, your fridge and your Brita filter isn't going to cut it. Reverse osmosis distilled, then remineralized, and you can structure it, all that cool stuff. So pure water, bathe with that. It's really important. Get your shower filtered, reverse osmosis for your home. Purify your water. Don't drink out of plastic. Next up is air purification. So just assume your home has mold, okay? Have air purifiers in every single room. I actually just had to unplug one in my kitchen right before we recorded because the audio quality would impact that. So air purifiers every room in your home. Lighting, I'm wearing blue light blocking glasses. So when it comes to sleep, having better air quality will help you sleep better, reducing your exposure to LED lighting. LED lights are everywhere. I think it's why people are losing their hair as well, because the direct impact of LEDs on people's tops of their heads. I mean, we've seen huge increase in hair loss over the last couple of years.
Mm,
And the blue light totally messes with your circadian rhythm. If you have
for
exposure to
sure.
LEDs before bed, you're not going to sleep well because your brain thinks, oh, it's daytime, right? So that's why I wear these glasses all the time. And they're a prescription as well, which is fantastic. So getting rid of any LEDs in your home, not working too late on your computer. If I'm working on my computer right before I go to bed, my sleep is always in the tanks that day. And then electromagnetics. So I have my phones on airplane mode, and usually they're actually, when I have them in my handbag, they're actually in a full on silver threaded Faraday pouch. So turning the router off at night is also really important. Getting outside grounding barefoot for about 30-45 minutes, that's going to help with your blood for the electromagnetics of your body. And when our electromagnetics are grounded, like you ground your home electrical system, we get too positive throughout the day when we're on our devices and our technology, and it makes your red blood cells stick together. You're going to have really bad blood flow, brain fog. You're not going to sleep well. You're not going to be able to detox either. Just standing outside barefoot 30-45 minutes, it's going to help ground your body system, and your blood will start to flow better. If you go outside and ground for 30 minutes, it's going to be more impactful than having that extra cup of coffee in the midday brew.
Hmm. Yeah.
So the first night I slept in electromagnetic protective clothing. So silver threaded clothing. We've all heard about the benefits of silver. I have a intranasal silver spray over there, right, for health and all that stuff. but it's the electromagnetic shielding through actually using specific type of clothing or blankets. Dr. Beverly Rubik's work is incredible in this space. I reference her, Rubik, Rubik. I reference her in my paper. When the first night I slept in EMF protective clothing, silver threaded clothing, was the first night I had 100% sleep score on the Aura Ring that was always in airplane mode, which I don't wear anymore because I don't like trackers, and then also the 8 sleep. So that's when I clued into the fact that, wow, this is really important that we mitigate these things. So it's the blood flow, it's being able to form coherent conversations when you're in a consultation with your client, and then you can follow them and your brain's getting good blood flow. So the
Mm-hmm.
EMF stuff is super super important. Just assume you're like radiation toxic from that stuff, ground, start to wear that clothing, and then the regular detoxing. So that's a whole other beast, but basically regularly purifying and detoxing from yeast, fungi, heavy metals, mold, and parasites all the time.
Mm. And how does one go about doing that? Does that require, ongoing coffee enemas and colonics, or what is it? What are we really looking at to get that stuff out of our system, and at least to mitigate that which we're being bombarded with every other day?
Yeah, so the gut, we consider this the second brain. So some people are going to have a better predisposition, better gut microbiome. They're not going to be as predisposed to things like yeast, fungi, and parasites in their gut. However, some of us, we are a little bit more predisposed to them, and I am, and it's really frustrating. Every 21 days, I have to do a pretty hardcore detox just to keep my system pure. But it didn't get there easily. I would say March last year was really when I started to get my body in a more alkaline state, start to take these different herbs that can clear things out. And you have to start really gentle and working with I'm a practitioner, so I mean I could walk myself through this stuff pretty easily, right? And a lot of you listening are healers and practitioners as well. So it's just taking the time to learn about these things. So alkaline diet, eating the right foods. There's some really great test kits out there that will allow you to understand which foods are going to be your superfoods, your enjoy foods, your minimize, and your flat out avoid foods. There's no point doing anything if you are cleansing, if you're still eating the wrong foods for your epigenetic system, right? It's like putting the wrong petrol octane or oil, putting in a 1030 instead of a 1040. You have to put the right fluids in, the right foods in for the
Right.
fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really important. And then, you can start to kick things up with, there are different agents that I take now based on different protocols. So the purification stuff, it takes a lot of effort.
It does
It's,
sound like it.
yeah, it's not for everybody. Not everybody's willing to do the work, but when you do the work, then you get that 10th radiant body activated, and it's magnetic. And then you'll not only start to attract the right clients, you'll attract, I'm in Tequesta, Florida. I'm in one of the safest neighborhoods in the USA. It's sunny all the time, beautiful life of my dreams, family, love, abundance, clients, right? You can't get all that stuff if you don't have the right clients, because the
Yeah.
clients are what pays for it all. So when you're manifesting, it's really getting yourself in a really beautiful right state that people want to work with you because they see that you're legit, that you are walking the walk, talking the talk, and that you have something to teach them. There are a lot of lost people out there that are going to be working with people that are really giving a lot of subpar information, but the right people are going to find you when you're taking the right action.
That's fantastic. That's really great. What a great bit of advice for those healers who are interested in finding the right clients, and not only that, attracting the right environments and the right friends and the right lovers and the whole right and right way of living that seems like radiance naturally universally attracts. It's really fantastic. So, Rachel, how does what you do? And now we talked a little bit about this on your podcast last week, but how do you have it that radiance and mental health are interrelated with each other?
If you're pure, you're not going to have all these mycotoxins and heavy metals in your system.
Hmm.
So when I started doing my cleansing journey last March, and we're, a year and a half past that now. Um, Mental health wise, you'll find this really interesting. About 2 weeks into this cleanse, it's a highly alkaline cleanse. It's like the lifestyle cleanse. You can find it on my biohacking favorites page on my website. I was watching a movie. I think I was watching the movie Limitless. And of course, all of us who, were doing all the things, you were on the hunt for that limitless capsule pill. And I got to tell you, a lot of influencers behind the scenes, speakers, presenters, their life is totally messed up. They're totally addicted to stimulants, and it's actually really gross to see this behind the scenes world. There's not a lot of people that I think are in this in a really pure way and are doing the work themselves. They're just showing up looking like they're doing the work. So when I was watching the movie Limitless, I was actually noticing on the periphery of the screen flashing. And what that was telling me was that I was having central nervous system die off of parasites. So toxins being released. So I was literally having things die off in my central nervous system, and I was seeing it through my eyes. So that was a little bit kind of like scary and sort of rocked me a little bit. But then, kept going with the process. I know it's working. This is good. This is a good sign. I know what this is. It wouldn't freak most people out, but background in ophthalmology, I understood what was happening. And then I did this long fast in Sedona after this big health event. And I just knew I wanted to go to Sedona, Southern Utah, and just integrate after this conference. There's so much, like, this is a huge health influencer, health entrepreneurship conference. The biggest names in the health and wellness industry are at this conference. So I just felt in my heart, go to Southern Utah, Sedona, and do this, 5 to 7 day long fast. And I did it. And then I went back home and realized, this life is not the life that I need anymore. It no longer serves me. Toxic, moldy home, toxic relationship, started to see things more clearly. And so this happens with women as well when they're on certain hormonal adjusting medications. They're with a partner that, doesn't actually meet their psychological, physical, emotional, spiritual needs. Their kind of discernment is a bit messed up. So the same thing will go if there's other toxins in the system that are impairing judgment, or that are maybe getting the higher brain to be too loud.
Mm-hmm.
Or, for example, for me, it was a matter of also being imbalanced in the masculine and feminine. So when we're working a lot, we're very much in our masculine. And then when we're relaxing, doing yoga, when we're relaxing and we're doing yoga and things like that, then we're going to be more slow and in the feminine. So it's not just about the mental health related to toxins, it's also about that yin yang, masculine and feminine balance as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very deep. It goes very deep in regards to what are some of these things that might be impacting our mental health. At the end of the day, I think it's toxins and being imbalanced in actually a number of different esoteric forms.
Beautiful. And your relationship with this is really kind of similar to somebody I introduced in for a talk just the other day, a good friend of mine you probably know named Kelly Brogan. And Kelly and I have been on each other's podcast. She's a renowned psychiatrist, really taking a look at the impact of all of this. And if you're not familiar with her work, you certainly should be. But if you are, this is
I'm very familiar with her work,
good.
and I'd love an email introduction. I've been meaning to work with her for some time.
Yeah, it'd be really great. I think the two of you would hit it off pretty well. Okay, Rachel. So we're going to be winding up here a little bit. I'd love for you to kind of speak up, speak to a little bit of maybe before we wind up, like what kind of pathway of life led you to get here? What did you have going on before you were this?
I would think actually further back than that. I'd actually think about what is in my family line, not just like the couple careers I had before this, which were, pumping gas in university, looking after kids, working at a coffee shop, then getting into my professional career as a aesthetic nurse in oculoplastics ophthalmology, and then taking it another step further, researcher, running my own business, teaching, presenting, all these things having a couple shows. But if you go past that, then it's the lineage.
Hmm.
What cultivated me to actually be ready for this kind of work, I would say it comes down to actually my grandparents and my great grandparents. And my great grandmother was actually the second female ordained evangelical minister in Canada.
Wow.
And then my great great grandmother was a spiritualist from the UK that would do seances in the living room and
Fantastic.
levitate chairs.
Wow.
So it's a little bit deeper than, what was your job before, what you're doing now.
Right.
It's, what's in my lineage, in my
Yes.
ancestry, what's in my DNA, right?
Right.
We're all, healers looking at epigenetics and what can we do to modify our gene expression. And it's, what actually needs to also be healed from the past, ancestral wise, in your line, doing a
Exactly.
ton of work around that. Traumas that are, trapped in the body.
Right.
The cells keep score. There's so many deep layers to
Yeah.
radiance, to being a healthy healer. It's not just what you learn in school. I did like 8 years post-secondary. I thought to myself, am I going to be a registered nurse my whole life? But actually, right after nursing, I went on to take my medical school prerequisites and wrote the MCAT. And, wasn't sure, did I want to be a doctor? Did I want to be a dentist? Didn't quite feel done education wise with being a registered nurse. And, I was at that point where I was applying to medical school. And then I thought, what, do I really want that? Or do I want to have more autonomy and work as a nurse entrepreneur and researcher? Let's, try this out. And I'm so glad that I just kind of listened to my heart, even though I invested
Beautiful.
so much time and money with, doing the whole med school route. I didn't need to have that book smart information to do what I do now. But yeah, it's been about 8 years post secondary education. But the most impactful things that I have learned have actually been from my most high vibe, beautiful, radiant clients, learning from others. And then just again, when you're in this frequency, the right information comes at the right time in the right way. Like I kid you not, this book I started reading today and learning about the 10th body in Ayurveda, the radiant body, electromagnetics, it all kind of makes sense when you see
Yeah.
these signs. Like, why have I been so electromagnetically hypersensitive for so many years? 4x4, 200 miles into the bush at a cell reception just to get a break from EMFs and Wi-Fi once a week. Started to notice the differences in my skin. Why is that? Then I started to look at the research behind electromagnetics, the skin, the body, the blood flow, and boom, this information here. It's been studied for well over 10 years now,
Yeah.
primarily in Europe. And then the link between electromagnetics and radiance. So when you look back, it's all these pieces get put into the puzzle, but it's no one piece is more important than the other. But I think a lot of people, when they're on their healthy healer journey, they don't do the work of releasing trauma. And then we get this wounded healer complex, which is
Hmm.
really common, which I know you're aware of.
Yeah. Exactly. Rachel, how can people find you? How can people work with you? How can people follow you and learn from you?
Hang out with me on the Always Radiant Skin podcast, where I interview lots of brilliant, bright, high vibe minds like Fred here. And we talk about radiance. We talk about ways that we can be our healthiest versions. I have lots of other doctors and nurses listen to the show and actually also book one-on-one sessions with me because you guys will love this. I started to clue into the fact that I had about a 90% consultation to treatment conversion rate. And then I built a whole business on teaching other practitioners how to give a great high converting
Mm,
consultation. And believe it or not, it meant less talking on my end and more listening.
for
And
sure.
with your background in psychiatry, I know you're probably like, yes, finally, someone who's actually going to listen more than they think they need to yammer on and educate. So
Exactly.
there's the one-on-one sessions with me are really special, where I can break down what that cake recipe is for you, and then you can also see my model of how I provide care as well. And they're, 75-minute consultations. We go deep, talk about lifestyle, biohacking, products you're using, and more often than not, when I go through the list of products that people are using every day, we identify toxins that, hey, okay, this is the root cause of your thyroid issues. This is the root cause of your hormones being off. And all of these things, you'd be surprised what comes up when we just start to take a look around in what you're using on a beauty and self-care aspect. So tune into the show, Always Radiant Skin Podcast. Book your one-on-one session with me. Everything is at rachelvarga.ca. I do have a new brand coming out very soon as well, so you'll get directed to what that is. But rachelvarga.ca is where you can find everything on me. And the Always Radiant Skin podcast, where I do a lot more, I do interviews and then I also do solo episodes there. Highly recommend tuning into there.
Awesome. Rachel, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being my buddy, and thanks for being a colleague, and thanks for being a great educator and a great presence, as well as a great example of what it is you do, like walking the walk. Really, really great. Thank you for being on the show, Rachel.
Thank you for the work that you're doing too. More people need to hear this information to become healthy healers.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're looking to do. Thank you so much. And thank you, listeners, for being here. We will catch you on the flip side in the next episode. And I'll have a single out later this today for the back end of Rachel's week. And we'll be able to speak a little bit to what Rachel brought up forward and some of my thoughts and feelings about how that interfaces with mental health and the world around us being a healthy healer. So from now until then, it's heal that healer and become a healthy healer. It's time for you to do that. No time better than now. Be good. We'll catch you on the flip side. Bye for now. Bye, Rachel.
Bye.